Just found out my wife of 3 years had sabotaged a previous relationship in order to be with me. You know, when you get married, you imagine things like arguments over who takes out the trash or disagreements about the thermostat setting. You think about those sweet little moments of surprise flowers or breakfast in bed, but you never really imagine sitting in your car, staring at your phone, and feeling your entire world tilt just a little to the left because of something you read. That was me today. I'm 34, and I've been married to my wife, Sarah, for 3 years now. We've got a 2-year-old Emma, who's basically a tornado in toddler. I mean, she's adorable, but she's all over the place. And now, Sarah's pregnant. We're thrilled. Or at least I should. We both work at the same big company, though, in different departments. It's a huge place, one of those corporate jungles where it's easy to get lost in the sea of cubicles and conference rooms. Before we got together, Sarah was just that pretty girl at work who everyone knew of. But no one really knew. She was one of those people who walked around with this air of confidence. And honestly, I thought she was a bit stuck up. I didn't even think she knew my name. We were on the same office dodgeball league one summer. I remember it well because I'm not exactly the athletic type, and she as well, she's not either. But there she was, giving it her all. I'm not sure why, but watching her get knocked over by a dodgeball was the first time I really noticed her. I don't mean in a she's hot kind of way, but more like I saw this person under the layers of corporate armor and perfect hair. It was funny and kind of humanizing. We never really talked back. I was dating someone else, a girl I met online. I thought it was going well, you know? We were about 5 months into it when my buddy Dave sent me a text out of the blue. It was one of those screenshots that you don't really want to see, but can't help but look at. There was my girlfriend's profile on some dating app. Same pictures she'd sent me when we first started talking. It felt like someone punched me in the gut. I confronted her about it, of course. She denied it, and I almost believed her. Almost. But the trust was gone. I ended it a few days later. After that, I wasn't really looking to date anyone. I focused on work, hit the gym a bit, and tried to move on. I'd see Sarah around the office now and then, and we'd nod or maybe share a polite smile. But that was it. Until one day, we got paired up on a project together. It was one of those massive company-wide initiatives that no one really wanted to be a part of, but everyone got roped into. We had to plan a big event, and somehow we ended up as co-leads. I remember walking into the first planning meeting and seeing her there, this look of mild annoyance on her face. I probably had the same look, but something changed after that. We started talking, just small stuff at first, where we grew up, what we liked to do outside of work. We were so different. She was into yoga and hiking, all that outdoorsy stuff. I'm more of a relax with a beer and watch the game kind of guy. But there was this moment. We were arguing over some stupid detail about the event. I think it was about the seating arrangement or something equally mundane. She was getting frustrated, and I was probably being a bit of a jerk about it. But then she just stopped and looked at me, this half smile on her face, and said, "You're really stubborn, you know that?" I remember laughing and saying, "Yeah, well, you're not exactly flexible either." And then we both just started laughing, right there in the middle of the office. It was like something shifted between us. We went from being co-workers who barely knew each other to, I don't know, something else. After that, we started spending more time together. We'd grab lunch, not as a date or anything, just two people who needed a break from the chaos of work. I found out she wasn't stuck up at all. She was just quiet and a little shy, which, looking back, I can't believe I didn't notice. She told me she'd been burned in the past, too, and didn't really trust easily. I guess we had that in common. It was weird, this slow build-up between us. There wasn't some grand romantic gesture, no movie moment where we fell into each other's arms. It was just these little moments that added up. I remember the first time I realized I had feelings for her. Real feelings. It was after one of those late-night planning sessions. We were the last ones in the office, both exhausted and a little punchy from too much coffee and not enough sleep. She was sitting across the table from me, her hair pulled back in this messy bun, and she was laughing at something dumb I'd said. And I just thought, wow, I really like this girl. I didn't say anything, of course. I wasn't that brave. And besides, we were just friends, right? But then the event happened, and it went off without a hitch. We ended up at this bar afterward with the rest of the team. Celebrate. I think we were both a little buzzed. And I remember looking at her across the table, and there was this look in her eyes. I can't really explain it, but it was like she was seeing me, really seeing me for the first time. And I knew right then that things were going to change between us. So, like I said, after the event planning project, Sarah and I kind of fell into this comfortable, easy friendship. Nothing heavy or complicated, just two people who found each other's company enjoyable. I didn't think much more of it at the time because life kept moving. Work was busy, and I was still licking my wounds from the breakup with my ex, trying to piece myself back together. Then, out of nowhere, a few months later, I was on this dating app, swiping through profiles without much thought, mostly out of habit. And there she was, Sarah, smiling up at me from my screen. At first, I thought it was a joke, or maybe just a coincidence. I mean, I knew she was single, but I didn't expect to see her on a dating app, especially since we worked together. It felt weird, but I was curious, so I swiped right. And wouldn't you know it? We matched. I remember sitting there, staring at my phone, this goofy grin spreading across my face. I mean, what were the odds? We'd worked together for over a year, barely exchanged more than a few words, and now here we were, matched on some app. It felt like the universe was nudging us together, you know? So I messaged her, something lame like, "Hey, fancy seeing you here." And she responded with, "Small world, huh?" We both laughed it off. But there was this undercurrent of excitement, like something big was about to happen. From that point on, everything just clicked. We went out for coffee first, just to test the waters, and then one date led to another. It was like all those little moments we'd shared at work, all those smiles and laughs were building up to this. We didn't have to go through the whole awkward getting to know you phase because, in a way, we already knew each other. But dating outside of work was different. There was no pressure, no deadlines, just us figuring out if there was more between us than a shared office and some decent banter. And there was. God, there was so much more. The first time I kissed her, it was like something clicked into place. I'm not trying to be all sappy here, but it felt like I'd found something I didn't even know I was looking for. It was easy, and I think we were both ready for something serious. I mean, we weren't getting any younger, and we both knew we wanted a family. So things moved fast. Some people thought we were crazy, but it felt right. Within a year, we were married. It wasn't a big wedding, just close friends and family. I remember standing there, watching her walk down the aisle, and feeling like the luckiest guy in the world. She looked beautiful, like a dream or something. We moved in together right away, and a year later, we had Emma. She's a handful, but she's got her mother's eyes and her father's stubbornness, which is both a blessing and a curse. Life was good. No, life was perfect. Sarah was an amazing mom, and we were a great team. Everything felt settled, like we'd found our rhythm. We were happy, really happy. And then, well, then today happened. It started off like any other day. I was at work, going through emails, when I got this strange message on my phone. It was from someone I didn't know, a random account on Instagram. I almost ignored it, but something made me open. The message was short. Just a link and a single line. "You should know the truth." I stared at it for a while, my heart doing this weird, uneasy flip-flop in my chest. It felt like one of those moments when you know something's about to happen, and you're not sure you want to know what it is. Against my better judgment, I clicked the link. It took me to a Reddit thread of all things, a post in some relationship drama subreddit. The story was eerily familiar. It was about a guy who'd been dating this girl and then found out she was cheating on him through a dating app. His friend had sent him screenshots, and he'd broken up with her right after. The post was old, years old, but I knew it was about me. Hell, the details were spot on. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the comments. There was one comment, buried deep down, from a throwaway account. It was long. A confession of sorts, written by someone who claimed to be the reason the guy and his girlfriend broke up. I read it once, twice, feeling my stomach sink with each line. The person admitted to creating a fake profile, using pictures they'd found online, and then matching with the girlfriend on the dating app. They even talked about following the guy's private Instagram to find out more about his life, to gather information. My head was spinning. But then I got to the part that made me freeze. The comments said that the person had done it because they were in love with the guy, because they wanted him to be single so they'd have a chance. The whole thing felt surreal, like I was reading some twisted, messed up version of my life. But then I saw it, the line that made my blood run cold. I know it was wrong, but I couldn't help myself. I knew he worked in my building, and I saw him every day. I just wanted him to see me, to notice me. I sat there, staring at my screen, trying to process what I'd just read. There was no name, no clear identification, but I knew it was Sarah. I mean, who else could it have been? It made sense in this bizarre, heartbreaking way. All those times I'd caught her looking at me at work before we got together. The way she seemed to know more about me than she should have when we first started dating. It all clicked into place, like pieces of a puzzle I didn't even know I was trying to solve. So let me tell you how this all blew up. It was a couple of weeks ago, on Sarah's birthday. I'd gotten her this new iPhone, top of the line, everything she wanted. She was thrilled, kept joking about finally joining the modern age, since she's always a few tech generations behind. Anyway, after she set up her new phone, she handed me her old one, saying I could erase it and sell it online or something. I didn't think much of it at the time. It's not like I was planning to snoop. I just wanted to do a factory reset, make sure none of her stuff was on there before I put it up for sale. So I'm going through the usual motions, deleting apps, photos and that's when I noticed it. A weird Instagram account logged in on her phone, one I'd never seen before. Curiosity got the better of it. I opened it up and the username rang a bell, but I couldn't place it right away. There were no posts, just a bunch of random follows. As I scrolled through the list, my stomach dropped. There, plain as day, was my account. But what really threw me for a loop was that she was also following my ex. My ex, from 6 years ago. The same ex I'd broken up with because of that stupid dating app fiasco. I sat there, staring at the screen, trying to wrap my head around it. This account had followed me around the time of my breakup. I knew because I remember seeing the notification back then and thinking it was just another random bot account. But now, here it was, still following me and my ex years later. It was like the ghost of relationships past, and it felt like I was being haunted. I knew I needed to confront Sarah, but I felt sick to my stomach. I mean, what was I even going to say? Hey, I found your burner account and realized you've been spying on me since before we were together. It sounded insane, but I had to know. I went into the living room, trying to act casual, but I'm sure I looked like I'd seen a ghost. Sarah was playing with Emma, both of them giggling over some silly song, and I almost backed out right then and there. How do you break something like this to the mother of your child? But I couldn't let it go. Hey, can we talk? I said, my voice probably a little too serious because Sarah immediately looked up, a bit of concern in her eyes. I gestured to the phone in my hand. I found something on your old phone. She looked confused, then a little defensive, like maybe she thought I'd found some embarrassing photos or messages or something. What do you mean? She asked, putting down the toy she'd been holding. This Instagram account, I said, handing her the phone. It's logged in on your old phone, and it's still following me. And my ex. For a second, she just stared at the screen, and I could see her piecing it together, realizing what I'd found. Then, without a hint of guilt, she shrugged and said, "Oh, that? Yeah, I made that account back then." Like she was talking about some mundane thing she'd done at work, not something completely insane. What do you mean back then? I asked, my heart racing. You followed me and my ex when we were together? She nodded like it was no big deal. Yeah, I had a huge crush on you, but you were dating her. So I made that account to see what was going on with you guys. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Sarah, are you telling me that you were stalking us? That you were spying on my relationship? She rolled her eyes a little, like I was the one overreacting. I wouldn't call it stalking. I just wanted to know more about you. And it worked out, didn't it? I couldn't even process it. It worked out. What are you talking about? And that's when she said, I saw your posts, saw that she was in your life, and I just knew she wasn't right. I figured if I could get you to see that, you'd end it, and maybe notice me. Notice you? I was practically shouting now. So you used that account to set up her profile on a dating app? Sarah shrugged again, like it was no big deal. It wasn't that. I saw some of her pictures. Knew you'd recognize them. I just wanted you to see what I saw. You ruined my relationship. You made me think she was cheating on me. My voice was shaking, and I felt this hot rage bubbling up inside. You manipulated my life because you had a crush? She crossed her arms and looked at me, this weird mix of defiance and hurt in her eyes. So what? It worked, didn't it? You broke up with her, and we got together. We have Emma. We're happy, aren't we? Happy? I felt like I was in a nightmare, like the ground was shifting under my feet. That's not the point, Sarah. You lied. You manipulated me. How could you do something like that? Sarah looked down, her face flushed with anger and maybe a little guilt. Because I knew we were meant to be together. I saw it before you did. So yeah, I did what I had to do. And look at us now. We're married. We have a family. So why does it matter? Why does it matter? I couldn't believe her. Because it's insane. It's deceitful and wrong, and I don't even know who you are right now. That's when she snapped. Her face twisted with anger and hurt, and she practically spat out the words. So you value a 5-month relationship with some girl over your wife? Over our family? I just stared at her, completely at a loss for words. This isn't about her. This is about you, about what you did. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, and she started shaking her head. I did it for us. I love you, and I wanted us to be together. Why can't you see that? I don't know what I see anymore, I muttered, feeling completely drained. I don't know who you are. She looked at me like I'd slapped her, then turned and walked away, slamming the door to our bedroom behind her. I just stood there, feeling like the wind had been knocked out of. What the hell had just happened? How do you even process something like that? I sat down on the couch, my head in my hands, listening to the sound of Sarah crying on the other side of the door, and I felt completely lost. What do you do when the person you thought you knew better than anyone turns out to be someone else entirely? I've been sitting on this for a couple of days now, and I still don't know what to think. After our blow-up, things have been tense at home, to say the least. We're talking, but it's like we're tiptoeing around each other, both of us afraid to say the wrong thing. Sarah's been quieter than usual, and I can tell she's hurting. Hell, I'm hurting too, but I can't seem to get past what she did. Every time I look at her, I see her standing there, completely unbothered, talking about how she basically sabotaged my life. I tried talking to my buddy, Dave, about it. He's always been my go-to for advice, the voice of reason when I'm losing my mind. We went out for a couple of beers, and I laid it all out for him. The account, the fake profile, the way Sarah brushed it off like it was nothing. I was expecting him to be as freaked out as I am, but he just kind of shrugged and said, "Dude, maybe you're overthinking this. I mean, yeah, it's weird, but it's not like she was poisoning your food or something. If anything, it's kind of romantic in a twisted way." Romantic? I just stared at him, dumbfounded. How is this romantic? It's like something out of a bad movie. But Dave kept going, saying how it's obvious she was really into me, how she knew we'd be good together. "Think of it this way," he said, leaning back in his chair like he was some kind of relationship guru. "You're married. You've got a beautiful kid, and another one on the way. It worked out, right? So what's the problem?" I tried explaining to him how it wasn't about whether things worked out or not. It's about trust. It's about the fact that the woman I married, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone, did something so out of character, so manipulative, and then acted like it was no big deal. But he just shrugged it off again, telling me I was being too harsh, that maybe it's just a cute story to tell the grandkids one day. But that's the thing. I can't imagine telling anyone this story without feeling a pit in my stomach. I mean, how would that even go? "Hey kids, did you know your grandma catfished your dad's ex so she could break them up and get together with him? Yeah, that'll make a great bedtime story." It's not just the act itself, though. It's everything that came with it. The lies, the deceit, the way she's still following my ex account. It creeps me out. And now I'm starting to question everything. How did I not notice this side? Did I miss other red flags because I was so caught up in the idea of being with her, of finally having something good after my last relationship went down in flames? And then there's the way she treated me before we started dating. I remember those first few months at work. She was always so distant, almost like she was avoiding me. It was like I didn't exist to her. I chalked it up to her being shy or just not interested. But now I'm wondering if that was all part of her plan, some weird reverse psychology. I don't know, maybe I'm just losing my mind over this, seeing things that aren't there. Part of me wants to let it go. I mean, we've built a life together. She's never done anything like this since, nothing sneaky or dishonest that I know of. She's been a great wife, an amazing mom to Emma, and we've got another baby on the way. I want to believe this was just some crazy, misguided thing she did, because she was young and stupid and really into me. But there's this voice in the back of my head that keeps whispering, "What else don't you know?" I tried talking to her again last night. Tried to get her to see why I'm so freaked out about this. But she just got defensive, saying that I'm making a big deal out of nothing, that I should be focusing on our future, not some mistake she made years ago. I told her it wasn't about the mistake. It was about the fact that she doesn't seem to get why it was wrong in the first place. She just kept saying that we were meant to be, that she knew it before I did, and that if I really loved her, I'd let it go. But that's the thing. I do love her. I love her so much it hurts. And that's what's making this so damn hard. I want to forgive. I want to believe that this was a one-time thing, a stupid, impulsive decision that doesn't define who she is. But I can't just flip a switch and forget what I know now. I can't just act like everything's fine when I'm feeling like I've been living with a stranger. So I'm asking you guys, am I overreacting? Was I too hard on her? Should I just let it go like Dave said? I mean, maybe this is just a weird blip in our history, something we can laugh about someday. But right now, it's eating me alive. I'm losing sleep over this, and I don't know how to move forward. I don't want to lose my family over this, but I don't know how to just pretend like everything's okay either. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Am I making a mountain out of a molehill here, or is this as messed up as it feels? Because I'm seriously at a loss right now, and I could really use some advice.